So do we want to talk about how they have manifested themselves in our lives and what we're doing to tame them, tame the tigers and slay the dragons? Like part of it is we want to tame the tigers. We don't want to destroy them because they can be an asset rather than a liability. So that's the part of, we don't necessarily have to kill anything, but we have to tame it. We have to
kill the dragon.
Slay the dragon.
You
Yeah.
gotta slay the dragon.
Yeah.
But I'm not taming the tiger too. Yeah.
So what is the dragon? It's fear. And we discuss how it's trickled into our own lives rather than make fun of how it's affecting others. Is that the danger you see, Gene?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think like, look, man, here's my big concern for us is that we are we've programmed ourselves so much that like, once the word comes out, once you and I get a sniff of ridicule, we dive right in, and it's and it's outdated, bro. We're not gonna. It's fun and it's entertaining for us, and we can smoke it all day, but we're not gonna. It's outdated.
Others aren't benefiting from it. Like where it's self-indulgent.
We have to keep it fresh.
Yes. So give me one example before we cut off to what you perceive as a universal obstacle right now, not the virus, but a universal obstacle that's unique to COVID-19 times, like that's stopping the martial arts professional or paralyzing the martial arts professional from.
I had a conversation last night with a woman who is a model. She's beautiful and she's 44 years old. And I said to her, like, why do you think your career is not taking off? Like, and she was like, well, I'm not 25 anymore. She's been in modeling for 20 years. And she's like, no one's shooting and COVID-19 and like, this is the industry. And so I think that and I said, like, the big problem with you is that you're resigned, that you've bought into all of these stops and you're thinking about them constantly rather than thinking about how you can transcend them. And I said, and this is, per that conversation, it was relevant to that conversation. I think it's relevant to this conversation, but you're gonna have to stretch for it. It's not a martial art analogy. But I said, look at the Rolling Stones. When they were 26, 27 years old, the social consciousness around rock and roll was such that they couldn't do it for much longer. They were already aged out. Mm-hmm. And that was happening when they were 30. That was happening when they're 35. That was what happened when they were 40 and 45 and 55. And now they're approaching 80 and they've transcended the whole thing. There's no more conversation in the social consciousness that it can't be done. And like you said, like they had to believe it before they ever achieved it. And so I think that like the big problem here is that via media, via experience, I battle it, man. Like I think I'm aging out of this thing. Like I can't see like Nikki Ryan is 17 years old, bro. Like what the am I doing? And that's just part of this mechanism. So that's the big problem is the way I see it is resignation. This continual playback of the resigned tape. You said skepticism. And how do we approach this and then solve that problem? What are the 5, or 6 or 10 things that like an adult person that's, in their 30s, late 30s, 40s and 50s that have chosen this as a practice and a career path, if you will. And they didn't get involved to get a quick buck, or they did and that changed, and now they've re-examined and realigned their priorities, and they want to do this. Like, but there's I think a core group of people like you and me that want to do this, that actually need to do this. This is like who we are in some way. Right? It's not the full identification, but it's part. So that's the big problem, the long-winded kind of answer. It's the resignation, man.
Okay.
So how do we buck that?
Acceptance. It's like a surrender to something that should not be surrendered to.
I think that I haven't thought of it that way, but that might be an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I think we're going to stumble upon it. I think we're going to, we're going to reveal it through discussion. That's like part of what I want the podcast to provide is as we explore the known, as we renew the known and go back and talk about what you and I already believe we understand and are experts in, is that we're going to have a deeper and richer understanding of it. And hopefully that's going to be the thing that helps us while everyone else is listening in. Like I think it's important that we remind ourselves in this exercise that we're doing, in this service we're providing, is we're talking to ourselves.
Yep. I thought that's why I said, man, like I had to hear that today.
Yeah, and we're inviting other people to listen in. Like that's my martial arts class. Like the most cutting and painful and potent comments that I make are really directed toward my own inadequacies, deficiencies, and flaws. How do we make sure, though, that people understand that and they don't feel like we're arrogantly and obnoxiously ripping them apart?
There's only one way to do it, but here's the thing. One of the things I've learned with my practice and thinking about writing a book and all of these stories that I'm trying to tell is that it can't be a confession. See, the problem is the confession is like it's useless. It's just dumping information on the listener. And so it has to be more than a confession. What it has to do is take somebody someplace. So we use our story, our own, in quotations, confession, our own pitfalls, our own experiences, and then they have to take somebody someplace. And I think that that's the problem with our former way of kind of communicating, is that like we either confess or we ridicule in an effort to help someone realize where they're at. And it's flawed, man, and it's too difficult. It's like asking someone to, I love the analogy, by the way, asking someone to jump into the DeLorean and go back to the academy over the HIV clinic. It's like, yeah, you guys, you think you're tough, and you are tough, and you're probably tougher than me, but if you walked into that academy on your first day and you got your arm broken, you weren't coming back. And so like that methodology of like, it's not reveal and seal, it's ridicule and alienate. People can't, people can't handle it right now. They're too fragile.